Hey, what's up everybody? Eric Solbox. Today I'm out in the shop working on my KLR, and today I'm going to do the clutch arm mod. And I've done this on several other KLRs that I've owned in the past, and basically what it is this arm here, I'm going to extend the length on it by about 10 millimeters, which will end up giving you a bit more feel at the clutch lever. It'll also make the amount of effort that it takes to get the clutch to work significantly easier. It gives the clutch a lot more feel too. The KLR has the worst clutch. If anything I've ever owned with a clutch, the KLR is the worst. This thing, either the clutch is engaged or it's disengaged, and a lot of that is just because when you pull the clutch lever in and out on this, you see there's hardly any movement to it. And so as you extend this arm out a little bit further, you can see that if it was out here, it's going to give a bit more travel to it, which can equate to a little bit better feel at the clutch for sure. And so this is a mod that I really like doing. It's super easy to do. It doesn't take much to do it. You will need a welder, a little wire feed welder actually from Harbor Freight. You can get them right now for about $100. And if you don't have a welder, go grab one. Any excuse to get a new tool is pretty awesome. I remember when I got my first MIG welder, man, I was running all over the farm just like, oh man, I can fix that now. So, you know, for $100, go grab yourself a welder. Flux core wire is just fine for what we're gonna do today. With my welder, I don't use flux core anymore. I've got a bottle for it. It makes for a little bit cleaner weld and stuff, but you know, you don't need a $1,000 machine to do this. So the other tools that you're gonna need today will be, I'm going to use this flapper disc to shape the metal after I finish the welds. So you'll need a disc like so. This is basically just like sandpaper that's round. And then a cutoff disc. I'm going to use this to cut the arm in half. And I'm also going to use this to cut the steel piece that I'm going to put in. After I finish the modification, I'm going to want to paint it black so that it doesn't rust. This is the metal that you'll need. You can get this at Home Depot or at your local metal yard. If you go to your local metal yard, they'd probably just give you a piece of this. So basically what this is 3/4 inch wide by 1/8 thick. Super easy to come by. And I'm only gonna need about 10 millimeters of this. I'm gonna add 10 millimeters right in the middle of the arm. You can see where 10 millimeters is at. Just that little tiny bit added to the center of that arm, and then I'm going to shape it, and you won't even be able to tell that the work was done really. And but boy, you'll be able to tell at the clutch lever for sure. So anyway, I am going to kind of get myself set up and ready to go, and I will be getting right back to you. All right, so the next thing you need to do is remove the clutch arm. And to do that, it's super easy to do. First thing you want to do is give yourself a little extra slack in the cable. So I'm going to bring this big barrel out towards the cable and then take the other part of it and screw it in some. The more slack you can give yourself, the easier it'll be to do. So just go ahead and screw that all the way in there. And then we'll come around to this side of the bike. I'll put you guys on the tripod here for a second, if I can. Sorry about that. There's the clutch arm in frame, and what we're going to need here, I like to use an adjustable wrench like so, and a small pair of needle nose pliers, and it's really easy to get this thing out. There should be a full-size rubber boot on here. Mine, the bike has been out in the sun and stuff, so the rubber boot is basically gone, but you'll probably need to sort of push it back a bit with the pliers. But take and adjust your wrench so that it'll fit over the arm like so. Push it over. And if you pull that extra slack towards you, it'll come right off, just like so. Turn and pull up, comes right out. All right, so I used an awl to scribe some lines here to do my layout and my setup. So, let's see if you guys are in in frame here so that you can see exactly what I did. Okay, so on the side of this, you can see that there's a rise to it. And at about the midway point, I went ahead and scribed a line all the way across. And I also scribed this secondary line so that when I put the new piece of metal in here, I'll be able to tell if it's basically in line with how it was from the factory. So I'm getting ready to make this cut. And then also I'm going to make the cut in this piece of metal here too. So hopefully you can see where I've scribed this so that I can cut it off and have a little 10 millimeters piece of this to weld into place. So hearing protection is important for this, and some eye protection too. Of course, now I'm getting ready to do this. Oh, there they are. So I'll go ahead and make the first cut with you guys there. Really nothing to this. Stick it in the vise. Careful, it's going to be hot. But there we go. Cut it off of there. Got this here. While I've got you guys there, I may as well cut this off for you. Where's my scribed line? There it is. I'll go ahead and cut this off, and then I'll meet you over at the welding bench. Alright, so I'm over at the welding bench now, and I'm going to show you really quick how I'm going to lay this out. So I'm going to do my tack welds on the back because I can set this up like this much easier. Basically the waste from this piece of steel that I'm going to put in, I want all of it coming off this way. I'm going to basically line it up here. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I want to be able to get to this with the flapper disc later and knock this excess off. So all I'm going to do is hold this in place and give myself a little tack weld. Now I'll do the same thing with the other half of it. Sorry, you guys probably can't really see this. Now I did it this way so that after I've got it tacked, I can flip it over and make any adjustments that I feel like I need to make. So if you look at this, it's not exactly completely straight, but I'll be able to bend it and kind of get it exactly where I want it before I go ahead and finalize everything. So I'm going to go ahead and you can actually see where, you guys are way out of frame, you can see where this starts to bend up, how it was stock. And so I'm going to want to try to kind of flex this around a little bit and get it to look as much like it did from the factory as to what I can before I final weld it. So I'll do that now and then I'll come back to you. Alright, so I've got this about to where I want it. You can see how the profile of this, you can see where it started to come up, and it used to come up across here, and I wanted to continue with that, and so I bent it a little bit with these pliers just to get it to look about right. And also on the top, where if you remember where I did my original layout, you can still kind of see where that line was here and at the bottom there. And I still wanted to make sure that those were kind of running true with one another. You see how all my waste is all on this side over here? So I'll go ahead and I'll finish welding this up, and then I'm going to grab the flapper disc and take the excess off. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of weld on the back too. I can knock the excess off with the flapper disc in a minute. All right, there we are. So let's grab the flapper disc and make this look good. That ought to about do it. I'll paint it black and then I'll show it to you again. Little pro tip is if you paint it while it's still hot from the welding, it sure does cure the paint quick. Here we are. All right, so that was relatively painless. Let's go ahead and show you how to put this arm back on here. And so when you put this in here, you want to make sure it's going straight down into the hole. And you've got to have it in just the right spot. If you've got it too far out in this direction when you slide it down in here, it'll catch and it won't want to move. Don't try to force it with the tool. You'll know when you've got it in the right spot. It'll operate correctly. And if you get it too far out in this direction, it's not going to want to move. Don't force it. You could break something. Now, also when this is all the way down and seated, there is a gap here. That gap is supposed to be there. So don't be looking at this thinking, oh man, is there supposed to be something there? Is it all the way in? Yeah, it's all the way in. There should be a gap. So one thing to note also is that this barrel that's on the end of the cable, this part of the barrel won't slip through the steel on here. You have to slip it where the actual cable is at. So let's see if I can't do that now. Of course, it's easier said than done when you got people watching. And I'm trying to rush it a bit, and I'm not having much luck. This is where it's handy to have 3 hands. Oh, I just had it so close. There we go. Dang it. Now, it's not in there quite right, but it's close. It's still, the barrel is actually still going off at an angle back there. It's not quite right. There we go. You should be able to see part of the barrel sticking out when it's in there correctly. All right, so back up to the top by the bars, and we will take some of the slack back out of this. This is of course easier to do with two hands, but I want to show you really quick and get a first impression before I pull the lever, so you can see me pull the lever for the first time and kind of compare to what I am used to on this bike for the amount of force required to get the clutch to go. So let's try it out. Yeah, it's significantly easier. But the one thing that's really great about this mod is just widening the zone in which the engagement happens, because the KLR clutch is just, it's either engaged or it's disengaged. There's no feel to it. And so now with a little bit more length on that arm, the area where it will engage will be opened up here. So instead of being disengaged and then suddenly engaged, you get a little more feel. So anyway, I hope that this was helpful. Jump in and do this mod. I think you'll probably like it. It really makes a difference to how the KLR behaves, especially on the trail. It really can become fatiguing when you're working this clutch for an entire afternoon. And so that's a lot easier. I'm going to go through and probably lube my cable today too, which should improve this even further. So anyway, Eric Solobox, hope that helped somebody out. Talk to y'all later. All right, so just one last thing. So I want to make sure that you understand when you adjust your clutch that you leave a little bit of slack in it. This should be able to move slightly, and that's actually where I've got it now, probably not enough. What happens as the clutch heats up inside of the bike, the plates expand, and if you don't give it a little bit of room to expand, basically you're riding around as if the clutch was partially pulled in, and it just wears it out very, very quickly. So when you adjust this, you want to leave a bit of slop. On a dirt bike, you should be able to fit like a nickel in between here. On this bike, you can't actually do that. But yeah, you want that little bit of space. And one more thing is that I wanted to, man, you wouldn't believe the difference it made in lubing the cable night and day. This is like literally, it feels almost like a hydraulic clutch. It's got such easy pull to it now. So it's a combination of lubing that cable and lengthening the arm. And so if you don't have one of these, grab one. This is an awesome little tool to have in the arsenal. Basically, you crimp this onto the end of the cable. So I had to take the cable out of the housing here, crimp this on, and then it's got a little tiny hole where you put the nozzle to the WD-40 in that little hole, and that way when you spray it, it basically forces the fluid to go all the way down through this cut clutch line. So, man, what a difference. This thing is like butter now. I can't wait to go and ride it. So anyway, do this mod. It really makes a big difference. It'll make your bike a lot more fun to ride. So anyway, Eric Solobox, talk to y'all later.